Hello again. This is the Watering Man, Spiritual Toolbox number 46, the Love chapter number 22, audio recording number 364, examination table number 27. Okay. I touched a little bit at the end of the last recording on like the plank length, where God's going all the way. That's like when God's going, we're base things not on our actions, on this external things or external out here, but all the way down, even beyond our bodies, in between these actions of our body, back down to past smaller than the signals coming from our brain. You can name brain, heart, whatever, blood pump, these organs in our body, which are still a tangible thing. Going back smaller than that, back into the mind. Going smaller than that, back into the thought processes. Going on back in beyond that, we're going down smaller, down into a single thought process, down in its deep. God's correcting this, bringing us, taking out this yuck thinking, this poop thinking, this carnality. That tree of the knowledge of good and evil that's rooted down inside our earthly thinking. God's getting it out. We just got to agree, and it's coming out 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 as we're falling in love with God, and He's bringing us back in each and every area of our thinking process. He's bringing us back to the right-mindedness of God, to that love beyond words. His love. He's given us the ability to love Him as He first loved us. Now, let's be like a clean animal. It's got 2 stomachs. They regurgitate it and digest it, meditate upon it again, pray, communicate with God, thinking, relying upon God to do it, not our weak. And I emphasize weak. Seeing, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. We have to have Christ in control of this. The Spirit of God, the anointing of God in control of that. Be married to God. Not to that I in the middle of our seeing, hearing, taste, touch, and smell, because that's poopy thinking. Yuck, diarrhea. Go way beyond that. Go all the way to the root of the problem, the root of this tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Let God chop it out, cut it out, transform that yuck thinking back into His right-mindedness. And that's done through His consuming fire and His refining fire. Now this is going to show a little bit more. We're going to go into more of this, what I was describing on the last one. We're regurgitating it like a clean animal and going over it, processing it again, thinking about it, meditating on it. I'm giving an example. Okay? To those who have an ear to hear, that are able to by the Spirit of God, let them hear. Okay? Now, because I know, like in saying just a bunch of numbers and all this stuff, sometimes it's just like, ugh, I don't want to hear that. Boggles the mind. Okay? Well, let's see. This is your dependent upon God. It's way beyond. God's ways are superior to our ways. Okay? I just stretched out there trying to show you a little bit. I'm going to regurgitate it and show you some more, try to make it even simpler. Because a lot of times when you go over things the second time, you get these aha moments. Oh, maybe it takes more than a second time. As you're living, existing, and God is double. 1 to 2 to 4 to 8. You're growing back into God. He'll bring you back all the way down from that plank size thought process that you can't even touch, see, hear, taste, touch, or smell at all with your old ego, and it's plumb ridiculous to even try to listen to the alpha dog inside you saying, I know the way to go. Now I'll show you just a little glimpse of how ridiculous it is to rely upon your own self, your own ET thinking. Your own idiot dog inside you that's trying to say, I'm an alpha dog and I'm your king. See how, let's take a look at him. You're blinder than a bat, you big old stupid. Talking to your own self, your own righteousness. And it's filthy, stinking rags. It's like that Beelzebub thing. It's the Lord of the Flies. It's the Lord of the dung heap. And that dung heap is that old carnal way of thinking. Now, let's show you. Hang on. Let's regurgitate it. Take a closer look at it. We got it out there on the dissection table, out on the examination table. Not that we may prove and leave it all obscure, and like in a thick layer, a thick blanket of fog to where you can't see it clearly. Like in this chapter, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, love chapter, where we look dimly in a mirror. We look through this fog trying to make out what's going on. In these electron experiences that are really like a fog, a cloud, a fog out there. A little bitty electron things that's, ooh, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. No, God, why are you doing this to me? And you're in a blanket. You can't even see the truth. Let's look. So that you could think about these things and become more and more reliant. This hope is coming more and more confident in God, in God's ability. Now, I'm going to read you something. Just a minute. Wow, just a second. In there, drink. That way I can give you a drink. Try to. Okay, let's just read. You can read it all around this stuff here, but let's just read one verse out of Romans 8. Okay? Romans 8, chapter 8, verse 26. Okay? Saying, likewise, the Spirit also helps our infirmities. Or in the New King James, it says weaknesses. Weaknesses, because we're subjected to this seeing, hearing, taste, touch, and smell, married to that old ego thinking, our own righteousness. God's bringing us out of that. He's to take the place of the true King of our thinking, of our heart, of our mind, of our those thinking processes all the way down to this plank size. That plank length, all the way down, even smaller than that, all the way down to the bare nothing. Okay? Now, likewise, the Spirit also helps our infirmities, our weakness, because we know not what we should pray or communicate to God. Okay? Communicate to God, internal, in our mind, and receive. Listen. Okay? Not just beg, but we don't even know how to beg when it gets down in there beyond what is so small. I'll show you, give you a little bit more something without as much numbers. A little bit, but not, I won't try to relate that in something so that you can kind of get an idea of how small it is, okay? Before we, all the way down to the root of the problem, the root of those thought processes that's way beyond anything we had no idea what's down in there. Okay? Now, for we know not what we should pray or communicate with God for as we ought to think. You know, how we should do it. We don't have any idea. But, on the contrary, the Spirit of God within us, those little bitty seeds down in there of faith, they know how to communicate with God. Come back to that truthfulness of God. God put them in there. All the way down there. And those seeds are like that plank size seed. Oh my goodness. That's way beyond anything we can see with our natural eyes. Anything we can even know about. That's how, like, a serial killer or somebody like a Hitler or something, they got those plank-sized seeds done in there. Plank-length seeds. That maybe not even grow at all. I don't know. It's up to God. God gives the increase. Okay? And there's how many, it could be an innumerable number of ways you're thinking, and each one of them is some kind of plank-sized seed. God, in Romans 12:3, God gave everyone. He put a measure of faith, a portion of faith, however much he determined. Right? Okay. Now, likewise, the Spirit helpeth our infirmities, for we know not what we should pray as we ought. But, on the contrary, the Spirit itself maketh intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered. We don't even know how to utter it. We don't know how to talk about it. We don't know how to think about it. How in the world do you do that? It's greater than us, greater than my might and my power. Therefore, it's not by my might nor my power, but it's by my Spirit, says the Lord. It's not by our own egos, might and power, that big old alpha dog in us. It's a big bunch of bull crap. It's the Lord of the Flies. All right? That Beelzebub, it's the Lord of the Flies. Lord of that dung heap. That big old bunch of shit stinking. Okay? Don't be married to that son of a buck. Kick it to the curb. Try to chop that thing out of there. Put a sock in its mouth. Wrap that duct tape around it. Tell it, be still. Right? Wasn't that basically what Jesus was doing when he came up out of that ship? Said, to the winds and waves, all that stuff, all that storms of life. Be quiet. Be still. Put a sock in it. Okay? Now, okay, so the Spirit cries out. That seeds cry out. The deep calls unto the deep. It's calling to God. The things that you don't even know. It's whoa, aren't you glad? See, because God is faithful to get it. To bring you back to whatever order, whatever level of growth He's determined. Yeah. It's not by your might, nor by your power, but it's by my Spirit, says the Lord. Okay? Okay, now, we're going to go to the whole observable universe. No, it's not all of it, because all of it hasn't been explored yet, and all of it, we can't even see all of it. But the whole visible universe is like, say, 46.5 light years in length. The speed that light can travel in a vacuum of space, which is 186,000 miles per second in a whole year. That's 1 light year. This is 46.5. I don't want to see. I got it written down here. Let me find it. It's there. Shoot. I just have trouble with my eyes sometimes finding this. I think it's 46.5 something billion light years. Shoot. It's humongous. Oh, right there. Yeah. I had it highlighted, but it was on the left side of the page, just where I was hit in a car wreck over there. I had trouble seeing on the left side sometimes. 46.5 e to the ninth, or billion light years. That's an estimate. Okay, 46.5 billion. 9 zeros after it. Remove that decimal place 9 times. Okay, 46.5 billion light years. Holy cow, okay? All right, now, compare that to the size of the smallest thing that we can see even with like a 20/20 vision or the best vision, unaided of a natural person, can only see down to like the width of a human hair. And that's about 1/10 or 0.1 millimeters. Take a millimeter, divide it by 10, divide it 10 times, it's one of those. That's about like one hair. Okay? Now, that's what we can see in the natural, and all the way out to the observable universe, 46.5 billion light years. Okay? Now, if you take this 1 light year, or one hair, and expand this up on like a scale, expand that hair, so you're looking at that hair and the width of it. Now put it proportionally on a scale of expand that all the way up, that width of one hair being like the whole width of the whole universe, the whole visible universe, observable universe, 46.5 billion light years to get across that one hair. Okay? Now, that one hair, we're looking at the smallest thing we can see with our seeing, hearing, taste, touch, and smell without ego in control, right? Our thought processes. Okay? In the natural, we're looking at this hair, and it's expanded up, the width of that hair being as big as the whole observable universe. 46.5 billion light years. Not miles. Not 5,280 feet. No, a light year is how far light can travel in a whole year. Oh my cow! Okay, it's actually 5.88 with 12 zeros. Almost 6 trillion miles. 5.88 trillion miles. And then times that by to get down to feet, it's big. 1 light year. Okay? Now you go all the way out to 46.5 billion of those light years. Now you're taking this little bitty human hair, expanding it on a scale to where it's the size of a universe. This observable universe. You're really getting down to detail. Right? In your thinking process, God's looking right down into detail. Expanding that one hair, everything that you can even think about with your mind. You're seeing, hearing, taste, touch, and smell with that ego in control. That 10-foot tall bulletproof dog. Right? The alpha dog. Yeah, I'm the big bad boy. It can see all this, all it can do is maybe like this little bitty hair. Okay, now expand that thing up and it's really look at it like with a magnifying glass. Got right in on it. And that's all you can see with your little bitty able to see, hear, taste, touch, and smell with that ego in control. Now, God goes all the way down. If you take that hair, with the hair being the whole universe, the observable universe, 46.5 billion light years wide. He's went down that far. Now take one, like God looks all the way down to the plank size, which would be like one hair of this hair that's expanded up to the size of the whole observable universe. God's going all the way down to that. Like in their mind. We need to correct this. Like God's taking his handiwork, his toolbox, working inside of you. Be reasonable, my child. Sit my way. Now, you're going to trust that alpha dog that can only see down to this one little bitty hair, and God's going to plumb down to the size of that, being blowing that up like it's the whole observable universe, and looking all the way down to a hair size out of that. Yo, dog. See? Now let's read this verse again. What's the Spirit done, or stuck in this? But the Spirit itself maketh intercession for us with groanings which we cannot be uttered. Because how in the world it can only see like this whole universe size of hair, and God's looking all the way down into a little bitty hair, all that. Ooh, that's detailed. And beyond that, God knows you better than you know yourself. And that spirit is crying, that deep is crying out to the deep. And making prayer and intercession, communion, communicating with God. Things you don't even know about. That presumptuous yuck thinking. God's like, right there it is. You're going, where? And you're looking at the whole, well, you got that width of a hair, all that you can see with your own natural thinking processes, all that you can think about. It's like the whole observable universe, and God's going all the way back down in that, looking at the size of a hair. Right there it is, plain as plain on it. And you go, what? That's how dark it is. In that poop slick, that big cave, and all kinds of dangers in it. Landmines, stalactites, stalagmites, graves with pits with the ends kicked out of it, stakes in the bottom of it that you fall on. You're going to trust a dog, the alpha dog, your own righteousness that can only see out there to the size of the observable universe, with God's dealing right down in you in the deepest regions of your thinking processes, all the way down to like a hair out of the size of a universe. And then that hair is out of a hair of another universe of all your thinking processes. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not upon your own understanding. So it's this thing here telling you with this size of a universe hair, the width of it, it's trying to tell you God's really trying to punish you forever and ever and ever. You better believe it. It's a blind dog. Shut up, you old dog. Put a sock in it. Pop. Duct tape it. Be still. Trust in the spirit that cries out within you. Words you can't even utter. Communication with God. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not upon your own understanding, and God will direct your path, your course of life, your way of thinking. It's like that. That's even more detailed than this whole electromagnetic spectrum. Coming from this radio waves all the way out to gamma rays. This is going all the way from your thought processes out even beyond the observable universe, showing all the way down to beyond like a hair, and then expand that out. Each thought process out, and look at a hair, inside of a hair, if you know what I mean. That gives you a way to be able to comprehend it. What I was describing last time. This is a little closer to trying to articulate out pictures God's showing me. The Spirit. Let's read that verse again. Let's read it in the New King James this time. Okay? Likewise, the Spirit also helps in our weaknesses. For we do not know what we should pray for as we ought. But, or on the contrary, the Spirit, see, we don't know how to pray, but on the contrary, the Spirit does. The Spirit, the seed of Christ, that plank seed, all the way down in there, nothing to bear, almost nothing, but there is something. The Spirit's down in there. It's buried, elliptically surrounded, way down in there, unimaginably small. I'm getting a way to be able to hopefully kind of imagine it, kind of think about it. Not imagine, because that cherubim, is placed by the east side of the Garden of Eden, is like the place by God to protect the way back to the tree of life. Your carnal mind can't go there. That's the imagination. Okay? This is a way to think about it. So God's bringing us back. You know, it's not by our might, our power, our alpha dog, but it's by my Spirit, says the Lord. God's going to do. You got to listen to the Spirit. Trust in the Lord. Okay? Now, we don't know how to pray as we ought, but the Spirit Himself makes intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered. Whew. See what the next verse says. Now He who searches the hearts, the thought processes, all the way down into this plank-size thought processes, this plank length, way down in there, far beyond our natural resources or way of thinking. His ways are far above our ways, far deeper. Okay? For God who searches the thought processes knows what the mind of the Spirit is, because God makes intercession for the saints according to the will of God. It's God's desire, not my desire, to be done. Not my alpha dog, for sure. My own righteousness, right? Now that's just, so, again, we're at 46.5 billion light years of the observable universe compared to the size that we can see with our natural eyes, that we can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. That's like our ego thinking, the way we can think about it. All the way down to 1/10 of a millimeter, this width of a human hair. Now blow that hair up, out to 46.5 billion light years, the observable universe. Now God's take the magnifying glass and all the way down in there, unbelievable microscope, down in our thought processes, down to the size of a hair. That's the Planck length size. Down into that thought processes and beyond, right down to the bare nothing, down to the size of that seed of faith that comes back to the truthfulness. But as we're in these storms of life, press in hot pursuit of that, hot pursuit of God. And we got to trust in God, because we have no way of being able to see that, to see, hear, taste, touch, and smell that on our own. So we got to trust this Spirit that cries out with groaning. You know, let's read that. Let me do a little bit of in some other versions. I read it in the King James, the New King James. Now let's read it in the New Living Translation, NLT, okay? We'll do a little translational comparison here. This is kind of just merely skimming to do the translational comparisons, but showing you all the different translations of the Bible, okay? On this Romans 8, chapter 8, verse 27. And the Father knows the hearts. And the Father knows all hearts, knows what the Spirit is saying. He knows all the knowing in the heart, all the way down to this plank size. Okay? Take a hair and expand it up to the size of a universe, and then take the God's type microscope and go all the way down to another hair inside that hair, universe size hair, blowed up, all the way down to a hair. That's the plank size. God knows even beyond that. All the way down, that's like looking at the seed, right? All the heart, and the Spirit knows what the Spirit is saying with that little bitty thing in there. That's a still small voice. All the big old rah rah rah, all this old carnality, all this goop and poop thinking. Rah rah, it's like drowning it out inside of you. But that still small voice is what you got to trust in. So let those that have an ear to hear what the Spirit says, hear, listen, attentively hearken, and pay attention to that Spirit. Okay? Now that knows what the Spirit is saying, because the Spirit pleads for us believers in harmony with God's own will. It's in sync. It's back to that. It's taking you. If you stay in that, exist it, choose God and fall into Him and exist and stay into that, it'll take you through that eye of the needle, right back to His mind, His right-mindedness, back in harmony, in total agreement, resting in God and being in union with God. Okay, I'm running out of time here. You can read the others. Just look at the Revised Version, the NIV, the ESV, the CSB, blah, 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 blah. Those are just translations. Go on beyond that. Look at the original. Go on beyond that. Examine, regurgitate it, think about it. Listen to that spirit, that plank-sized spirit in you. Do these experiences of life. Okay? Now this has been like, I'll call it like the video at number 2 of this plank length size of thinking processes that God is showing us, that God is speaking. That still small voice that's trying to be that's speaking out inside you. And that, wow, this is in one, the tiniest of tiny thought processes. God's working on the correct. God is the great hero. God is your exceeding great reward, the self-existing one. So exist back into the self-existing one. This has been Spiritual Toolbox number 46, the Low chapter number 22, audio recording 364, examination table number 20.